"You're nothing without us," my aunt said softly across the courtroom table. Then the judge asked a single question, and everything my family believed about me collapsed in real time. I didn't react when she said it. I'd trained myself not to. Years of swallowing comments like that had taught me how to keep my face still while something inside me cracked. Only later did I realize that sentence was the last lie they'd ever say to my face. I'm 39 years old. I manage logistics operations for a regional shipping company based in Busan. It's not a flashy job. No corner office. No headlines. Just long hours, spreadsheets, and quiet problem solving. I've been doing it for almost 15 years. Long enough to understand systems. Long enough to understand people. My family and I had been entangled for as long as I could remember. Not close in the warm sense, more like bound together by obligation. After my parents died within a year of each other, my aunt became the unofficial authority figure. She handled everything. Or so she said. I moved back home for a while after the funeral. Paid bills. Ran errands. Took care of paperwork. I didn't argue when decisions were made without me. I assumed cooperation meant respect would come later. It didn't. The distance showed up in small ways. Family dinners where my input was ignored. Financial conversations that happened after I left the room. Documents slid across tables with my name already printed, as if consent was a formality. I told myself it was grief. That everyone was doing their best. The betrayal revealed itself the day I asked about the old warehouse. It had belonged to my father. A neglected concrete building near the port. He'd bought it decades ago when no one wanted the land. When I asked why it was suddenly listed for sale, my aunt smiled like I was a child asking about adult matters. "We're handling that," she said. "You don't need to worry." Except I did need to worry. My name was on part of that deed. A week later, I received a formal notice. The family was moving forward with liquidation of shared assets. My share, they claimed, was minimal. Symbolic. I confronted my cousin, the only one who still spoke to me honestly. "They think you don't understand," he said. "They think you never paid attention." I did understand. I had paid attention. I just hadn't announced it. When I objected, the tone changed. Concern turned into irritation. Irritation into dismissal. "You're being difficult," my aunt said over the phone. "This isn't about you." When I didn't back down, they escalated. I was accused of obstruction. Of hoarding information. Of planning to take advantage of the family. It spread fast. Calls from relatives I barely spoke to. Messages asking what I was trying to hide. Then came the lawsuit. They claimed I'd misrepresented my contributions. That I'd benefited disproportionately. That I was attempting to seize control of assets that belonged to the family unit. Reading the filing felt like watching my life rewritten by people who had never bothered to ask what I was actually doing. The confrontation happened during a private meeting before trial. A long conference table. Neutral walls. Paper cups of water no one touched. "You were convenient," my aunt said, not unkindly. "You handled things. But that doesn't make them yours." I asked her if she remembered the nights I stayed up reconciling accounts. The personal funds I used to cover shortfalls. The contracts I renegotiated quietly so nothing would fall apart. She shook her head. "That was your choice," she said. "Your feelings don't matter here." That sentence hollowed me out. I went home and sat on the floor of my apartment for hours. Didn't cry. Didn't call anyone. Just sat there, staring at nothing, realizing how much of my identity had been built around being useful to people who never intended to see me as equal. That night, something shifted. I stopped trying to explain. The trial moved quickly. My family arrived confident. Well-dressed. Organized. They spoke about unity. About shared sacrifice. About my supposed silence being proof that I had nothing to show. When it was my turn, I answered only what I was asked. The judge reviewed the documents. Paused. Looked up. "Counsel," he said, "can you clarify the ownership structure of the portside properties?" My lawyer stood. Explained. Slowly. Methodically. That's when I felt the room change. The warehouse wasn't just a warehouse. It was the anchor for a logistics holding I'd helped structure years earlier, quietly, legally, with my father's knowledge. The adjacent properties. The leases. The long-term contracts. Assets my family assumed were dormant were very much alive. The judge asked another question. Then another. My aunt's expression tightened. My cousin stared at the table. Someone whispered. By the time the financial summary was read aloud, no one was smiling. The court didn't need theatrics. The facts were enough. The ruling wasn't dramatic. No raised voices. Just clarity. The claims against me were dismissed. The ownership acknowledged. The attempt to force liquidation denied. Outside the courtroom, my aunt approached me. Her voice was low. "You could have told us," she said. I looked at her and realized something simple and sad. They never asked. I didn't walk away feeling victorious. I walked away feeling finished. The aftermath was quiet. No apologies. No repaired relationships. Just distance settling into permanence. And for the first time, that didn't scare me. I still work the same job. Live in the same apartment. My life didn't transform overnight. But something inside me did. I stopped answering calls that felt like demands. I stopped explaining decisions to people who only listened when it benefited them. I learned that dignity doesn't come from being indispensable. It comes from being clear. If there's anything I want you to take from this, it's this. People who benefit from your silence will call you powerless when you finally speak. Let them. Power isn't loud. It doesn't need approval. Sometimes it just waits, quietly, until the truth is unavoidable.